Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to PSGL. George Morgan here, your commentator, alongside me, TK, who is going to be rounding off the season with me.
Down the inside,
absolutely impossible scene.
This is for the win between these two.
I'm on the edge of my seat.
He needs to get it done now.
Blakey will dive to the inside.
We're robust. We got our elbows out.
Ronar takes the lead.
Because here comes Alfie Butcher.
Can't really complain with that one.
It's not going to be easy. The pressure is on, of course.
Jarno Watmere is your champion.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening wherever you are in the world. And welcome back to PSGL PCF2 for round 3 of season 43, where we head to the Ardennes Forest. That's right, we head to Spa, where Omi, we are going to be in for quite a chaotic qualifying and race, I would imagine, with regulation. The big topic is going to be battery. And how are you on this Thursday evening?
Well, I'm doing very, very well. One race before we head into a week break, so we've got to enjoy it. And the good thing is, we are at Spa. Maybe it's not ideal for the drivers battery-wise, as you mentioned, but for us, we're going to be seeing a lot of battling into corners and lots of side-by-side, maybe some position changes down the straight and lots of close moments as well. Because while you have got long straights, it can get very close with the grass on either side, so we've got to keep an eye on that. And we've just had an F3 race that's still ongoing, but we've had a remarkable F3 start point to that round 3 of the season for them. Lots of battling, lots of 3 wide, 4 wide. It's been quite chaotic as well. So if you're just joining us over from that, then it is great to have your company, and let's hope we can try and provide something similar.
Yeah, hopefully we can. It should be a rather interesting evening ahead. 20 drivers will take to the field tonight, and that does include, if we head to standings, serves at the top of the standings. Liam Stevens will be racing once again. Of course, Hietala does separate them 5 points, separates the top 3 in the standings. Ave Gabadi is 4th, is a further 10-point back. Stachulek in 3rd, but of course that was due to unfortunate DNF last time out in China. And it's Larry Talk, Preskin, Zach Styler, Conrad Bohm, Nelson Alves, and Stephen Faso rounding out your top 10, rounding out your point score so far this season. Rishan Jacobs, Tamash Kokeni, Elia Tomasetto, Tom Roberts, Santana, and Vermont. But Omi, it's mainly been the 3 drivers at the front of this field, Stevens, Hietala, and Stachulek. They've been the forefront of this season. And it's shaping up to be a great title battle, even though Stevens and Stachulek are reserves.
It really, really is. And when it comes to Tony Hietala, he is your reigning champion. And that means that the goal very much coming into this season is to just retain his crown and join Angelo Di Ortenzio as a 2-time champion of PCF2. So he had his season where he won it last time out. But he's basically here with this new DLC. He's here to prove that he can once again come in and do it. and basically just increased his credentials just a little bit, winning F2 once again, but this time, let's just say, at a part of the game cycle where it is a bit more critical for a PC F2 driver to take the crown compared to what usually would be the last season before a game cycle when he won it last time out in season 42.
It certainly is, because this first season, at the very least, is your addition to maybe even join F1, maybe mid-season there or in their next related. That is, of course, drivers to really prove themselves and how quick they are at the forefront of the game. And of course, well here, Omi, the question now remains is, are we going to get a third driver take maximum points? Of course, Stevens and Itala respectively have both taken pole position, then converted that into the race victory. Are we going to get a third driver to do that? Are we going to get Itala or Stevens do it again? Or are we just going to get someone who grabs maybe a lucky pole position or a pole position that we don't expect, lose it in the race, and we finally get someone that doesn't convert that pole? I think that is really the big talking point heading into this race in Belgium and just before this week break as well.
Yeah, lots of talking points you mentioned in that little one. Well, I mean, I'll try to answer some of them, but, you know, the on-track action is going to do a lot of the talking because it's going to be, it is very much going to be unpredictable, this. We've got lots of drivers on this grid who have previously gone well around this circuit. Tony Hitala's gone absolutely unbelievably, in fact, around this circuit as well. So we'll keep an eye out whether he can try and take the step forward and get himself another P1, get himself another pole position. So I'd say he's definitely the one to keep an eye on when it comes to previous form around here. Other drivers also, Nelson Alves has performed well, and we've had some great names over the seasons that have taken victory around this circuit. Will Lewis has won, Thomas Ronhar has won, a certain Formula 3 driver in real life, Joseph Loke, has won in PCF2 as well. So not trying to say that if you win here that you'll end up in Formula 3, but, you know, it's not out of the possibility.
It's certainly not indeed, and it is going to be a very, very frantic evening ahead. Of course, being at Spa as well, there's always a chance of rain, and to go alongside that, remember everybody, after last week's race in China, there is no safety cars either for the foreseeable future. So even if there is a big accident that we see from a 3-4 wide accident, not to be a safety car for it, but the drivers are just loading into qualifying, just about to get out on to the circuit. So now head over track side now, where the first driver out on the road seems to be Casper Flack, I believe. So going to be a very interesting session as well here, Omi. I think this circuit is where we're really going to see the battery management come into play, and who really does perform on holding on, of course, to that battery over the course of the lap, because the first and the final sector, pretty much flat out. The middle sector, that's where you need to do all your recharging.
Yeah, absolutely. As already getting very close. Formula 3 qualifying stuff down there on the Kemmel Straight, basically. They, of course, had a crash in their qualifying a few weeks ago in real life. And we were very nearly heading to that territory as everyone was fighting away down that straight. This is on board with Casper Flack. Great to have him with us this season, as he has had to miss the 2 rounds so far, but he's with us now in the Haas car, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do as he looks to try and get on the board a flying lap. And he'll be the first one to do so. The longest lap, of course, of the season, just over 7 kilometers this place. And it means that the challenge is high, and you've really got to try and deliver. And rain as well is another possibility that can come around this circuit. Nice and sunny right now, but that can always change around the Ardennes.
It certainly can indeed. And Casper Flack, I believe, another one of those F3 graduates from last season. Yeah. See how he does coming up and stepping into F2. We've seen Gabadi, we've seen Vidler as well. They have been some decent pedalers, especially Abe Gabadi, who is unfortunate not to maybe pick up a second podium last time out. But as we head into that first corner, you can see into the source, lifting already, so they can get as much battery for this run all the way down the hill to a Rouge and Radion. And then over the crest we shall go, and then maybe use a bit more battery as we head down the Kemmel straight into the com, using a little bit of the grass as well. We'll open up the straight line mode, of course, all the way down into the braking zone. First sector split, a 30.7 from the Dutch driver as he now makes his way through Malmedy, and will be heading down into the Bruxelles hairpin once again, just lifting massively. And that's going to be the story of this evening, isn't it, Omi? It's going to be all about lifting and coasting, especially in this part of the circuit in that middle sector.
Yeah, your eyes would go typically to the race when you think about the battery, but no, it's going to have a big impact on this qualifying session as well. You're going to see them lifting at so many different parts. Here you can see it really lifting off the throttle just to try and harvest as much as he can, because he's still got the long back straight to go. Of course, it's not really straight. You have the Blanchimont put in the middle, but basically, typically, it's flat to the floor. It should be flat to the floor. In these cars, with the battery, you're having to manage a lot though, and you can see from the steering wheel that it's decreasing all the time, and then we finally get down in towards Blanchimont, not full throttle, and then he's trying to, well, get the throttle down. Now the battery's completely gone at this stage. You hit the brakes for the bus stop chicane. That's where the overtake mode board will be to give you extra power in the race. For now, it's just foot to the floor. Over the line will go, and it's a 1 minute 43.293. Alejandro Lerrero now goes over to the top. Pressacan goes over to second, and because it's the longest lap of the season, you're having to battery manage for such a long time. 1 minute and 43 seconds, and it's a 1 minute 43.085 for Tony Hietala, looking to be a pole sitter in PCF2 around Spa once again.
Certainly is indeed setting that pace early, and he has done in the opening 2 qualifying sessions of the season as well. Here comes Elia Tomasetto, only 10th fastest for him. Stachulek now coming out of the final corner. What can the Ferrari do? Can he gallop his way up the order? He only goes to 10th fastest himself. Still waiting on the time from the likes of Sabrino, Fanselter and Liam Stevens. Here comes Stevens to the line. He just misses out on the provisional front row. Conrad Bohm is in second place currently. Lorenz Patton is now coming up to the line in the Williams. What's it going to be for him? 11th fastest. And it was moving up the order as well for Sergio Sabrino, but only to 16th for the Red Bull. Only Jensen Rowson hasn't come out onto the circuit just yet. He's been in the pit lane for a majority of this session, but around a long circuit like this, it is still very close lap times indeed. The top 10 separated by under 0.3 of a second, and it is going to be very interesting to see, of course, as each driver learns the grip, of course, in this session, how they learn to manage the battery, because every lap you learn more and more and more. You could do countless laps of practice, Omi, can't you? And then when it comes to the main session, you're still learning, you're still finding those little minute amounts of details to find a couple of hundredths of a second, which over the course of a lap can easily amount to at least a tenth or two.
Absolutely. So into the pit lane comes Hietala. Here was the driver that we mentioned. There's a long list, but he was one of the drivers that we mentioned to keep an eye on here today, because in PCF2 he goes well around basically every circuit we go to, but especially this configuration of racetrack. By the way, for Rowson, you may have seen a few moments ago he joined back the server, so he must have had a disconnection while we were focusing on the other laps, and that is why he's not got a lap time on the board, and that is why he's currently put 20th, and only 20 drivers in this one, so we couldn't fill the 2 further seats. This year, of course, 22 in total, but Rowson now, well, the disconnection or whatever happened, the game crash, whatever happened to him, happened in the first few minutes. I guess if there is any point of this day that you can get away with a bit of a disconnect, then I'd say the first part of the session is the best time to get rid of it, basically, because you want to be full out attack across 11 minutes. Remember, because this is the longest lap of the season, it does mean that you can't just typically go in, go out and have all of the time. Your out lap, your push lap, your in lap all takes quite a lot of time, and it means that drivers like Casper Flack, Tony Hietala are already coming back out just after coming in.
Exactly, we're already nearing that halfway point of the session, and usually at this stage drivers are just either starting or finishing their second runs, and everybody is now just coming back out onto the road and getting the car turned round, put on a fresh set of boots to go again. So that just shows how long it takes to go around a circuit like this, and especially if you do run out of fuel on your in-lap. But that a bit more of an agonising wait, especially up this hill into the bus stop chicane and through a Blanc. But here we are now with Jensen Rowson. He's about to start his first flying lap of the session. Crucially, will have some traffic to contend with throughout the lap as he starts the lap now, heading into that first corner. Just look how early they lift Omi, all the way from the, of course, the secondary start-finish line where there starts in WEC. Just all the way into that first corner. They're on about 75% throttle. That's how much they're having to save the battery.
Yeah, it is so different to the previous regulation set. And the drivers are completely managing something else. Where quite literally it used to be about throwing it into every corner and just keeping your foot pinned for as long as possible. That's not the case anymore. If you want to go round in the fastest way possible, then you have got to try and manage the battery and make sure that you've got it for the right time. So for example, keeping your foot pinned all the way down towards this corner, absolutely pointless, because it's not a long enough straight. You don't really want to do much of your damage there. So you're basically managing all of that at this stage. It's just some of the traffic that Max is telling you about that he's going to come up to as well. I mean, even if they're out of the way, it's never naturally helpful for a driver. And I mean, he's been fully impeded here by the Audi, and he's hit into the back of the Audi as well, not getting out of the way. And that is Jensen Rowson. Well, his lap time gone, and you can see that he is annoyed with that one.
Very, very frustrated indeed is Jensen Rowson. I believe that is going to be the Audi of maybe Victor Vidler, who has just got into his way. So as he unfortunately loses his lap and will have to come in and go again and potentially only have one run in this session, his teammate Casper Flack has started his second attempt as he now makes his way through the Jackie X curve, using all the circuit he possibly can as he makes the way down into Pouon, lifting through this usually flat out left-hander now into, of course, the campus corner chicane. Slowly roll the car through here, save as much battery as possible. And are we seeing an improvement from Casper Flack through this middle sector? No, we are not. A tenth and a half down in the middle part of the lap as he now makes the run all the way up into Blanchemont. But if he saves a bit more battery, he might have an opportunity now to find that time and fight back. And he'll make his way up to the bus stop chicane, braking around about 100 meters. Flick the car in. This is probably the most aggressive you're going to be on the lap, through the bus stop and up to the line. And as we go with Casper Flack, is there an improvement? No, there is not. Lost more time in that final sector. Yeah. And even Tony Hietala is down in the middle part of the lap and actually aborts.
Yeah, I think the rain is actually about to come down here at Spa. So, we've had a wet F3 qualifying, as I was just mentioning earlier. Oh, yes. And now the rain is actually coming down. So, the lap times that we saw earlier on could be the critical ones. There was a few drops initially. Tony Hietala is completely abandoned. He's not even bothering. What does Loureiro do? Out of the final corner, gets his foot flat to the floor. You can see that he was sliding, making his way through, and he's going to be down by 0.3 of a second. And they had a perfectly normal circuit earlier. Stauchilek was improving. He knows he won't be able to continue that, and very much that seems like the session is going to be done, and Tony Hietala is on his way to take 3 F2 pole positions in a row around Spa circuit, season 41, season 42, and if these conditions continue in about 6 minutes and 30 seconds time, it's going to be season 43 added to that list.
It certainly does seem like it is going to be season 43 as everybody is diving into the pit lane. Everybody is bailing. They're not finding the time. The rain comes at the right time from the Aston Martin man, who was not able to improve on that second lap. And he could have potentially been pipped to that provisional pole. But when he needed it the most, the rain has saved the Aston Martin man. And he's our first repeat pole sitter of the season. It's back-to-back poles for Tony Hietala, of course. Pole in China last time out. Can he convert this one into a race victory? Goes a 43-0 to start the session off, and that's what got him across the line. I did notice it was getting a bit more overcast as the session drew on, And just like we said, Omi, at the top of qualifying, certainly is, rain is always on the cards here at the Ardennes Forest, and it certainly has struck.
Yep. And you can see what the rain can cause when drivers are on the slick compound of tyres. But for Tony Hietala, third, first, and first to start the season. Not bad when it comes to the king of qualifying. When it came to PCF2, he was referred to by the grid as qualifying merchant when it came to the last part of the game cycle. Well, he was able to do the magic in the races along with qualifying. So he very much has become the all-round master when it comes to things. And his lap time earlier on very much has bagged him a pole position once again. This is going to be pole number 9 for Tony Hietala. This is a driver who, as of today, has now 37 starts in PCF2. So it is quite remarkable how many times he has been able to put it on pole when the margins are usually so close, when it is usually wide open at so many times at the end of an F2 session. But he's always just able to find something.
Certainly is indeed. He can pull rabbit out of the bag when he needs the most. And of course as well, talking in terms potentially of the championship, I know it's very early in the season, we are only on round 3, but for Seechuk, down in 14th here, Omi, a very, very disappointing qualifying from him, but of course we saw last time out in China, Stevens qualified 11th, ended up finishing that race in 3rd, just behind Hietala and Seechuk. So it's going to be interesting to see. He's charged through the field if he had more pace in the bag, but for Liam Stevens, I don't think he'll be too disappointed with a 3rd place, especially if he has the race pace we have seen over the first 2 rounds. So it's going to be interesting how this race now progresses. And I believe some of these drivers are going out onto the intermediates, which they are. So does that potentially as well here, Omi, have some connotations? There might be some rain in the race.
Who knows? Who knows? Especially if there's no grid penalties that come in these final 3 minutes now, and we basically stay put in terms of this lobby. Just like you saw in F3, wet qualifying translates to wet race sometimes. So that can absolutely be a possibility as well, like you are mentioning. And yeah, it's not what you want. I mean, as you mentioned, early days, but in terms of for championship contenders, both Seechuk and Liam Stevens are reserve drivers. So I guess it kind of depends on a few things. In terms of what they're thinking right now, it depends whether they are interested in continuing to run. They were put by Krypton as, you know, already top of the reserve list, just because of pace. That was said after last time out. So regardless of the order, they're always now going to be the first and second drivers as the go-to. Usually seats do open, but it does kind of depend on their availability, and also just depends on whether they'll be here and what their goal is. Because I guess when you see reserve, you don't kind of think about the championship. But just because they are reserves and they've come into this and put in some great pace. Remember, these are drivers who are basically kind of OGs of PCF2. They've been here so many times before, so many times in the past, and they are now getting together a great start to the season. The case for Liam Stevens. Seechuk, it's kind of gone a little bit downwards here today, but that's just qualifying. And as you mentioned, Max, great point earlier of the finishing positions and how the drivers can improve them. Zach Styler finished absolutely brilliantly after starting much more lower down last time. He was one of the drivers who absolutely pounced through, so don't count anyone out from qualifying to the race.
Certainly cannot. Anything can happen in these races, and drivers could just have a race of their life and go for say, Jensen Rowson's opportunity from last to first come the end of the 22 laps we'll have here today. So it's very much plenty to play for. With the overtakes you've seen in the likes of F3, it certainly can get very feisty, and a lot of chaos can be had. And we're currently on board with Conrad Poe, as he's one of the drivers that has elected to come out onto its first wet running we have had all season. So it's just nice to see how the cars do react and how they are to handle in these sorts of conditions as well, because we've not even seen these conditions in real life yet, have we, Omi? We've not seen these 2026 cars in the rain, so for a lot of us, this is our first opportunity to see it.
Yeah, You had it delivered to you in F3 a few moments ago. You're getting it in F2 as well. But yeah, we've not really seen it. We have seen the green wall intermediate compound of tyres at the start of the Canadian Grand Prix for the McLarens, who chose to go a little bit interesting then. Sorry to say, Max. But other than that, no, we've not had a wet session in real life of consequence where they're pushing on, and, well, anyone should be on those intermediate compound earth tyres. But in this PSGL PCF2 in the game, very much different, and the rain can come quite a lot of times here at Spa, and in real life they missed it. For us, we haven't, and it means that we've got an interesting race about to come our way.
Yes, we certainly do. With all the heat waves going on as well at the moment in Europe, it must be quite nice for at least the virtual spectators in this game to have a little bit of a cool-off. But this is the end of the session, and it is going to be Tony Hietala who takes pole position. Conrad Bohm has had a really good upshot in form over these past two races as well here, only, of course. Qualified quite highly last time out. I believe it was a 5th place last time out in China where he qualified. And then here in Belgium, a front row start. Got the lap in when he needed to, and it's a front row start for him here as well. So certainly has been one of the early surprises of the season, along with, I would say, Ave Gabadi, but two very good, strong qualifying sessions back-to-back from the Red Bull driver.
Yeah, been a very interesting campaign for Conrad Bohm as well. It was a shame to end it with a retirement last time out in Shanghai, but you're going to get retirement. I always mention, I've covered a lot of these F2 seasons now, and it applies. The same applies F3 and basically every single tier that we do. It's all about minimizing those bad days. It's not always going to be about getting yourself to the top step. It's about minimizing some of those bad days, and that'll be the difference between you winning the title and you being second. We've had championships decided by single points in terms of Luke Smith's win in Season 30. There we go, that's your Luke Smith mention. As we like to do every single broadcast, and the Season 30 championship battle that we had, incredibly, in what was our second season of PCF2 at the time, and we've created lots of historical moments beyond that point and crowned a lot of winners, nevertheless, here at Spa, and we're on course to possibly add a few more to the list as the drivers continue their extended practice. But we get to commentate on this extended practice that they've been doing. Checkered flags out, so there's not much left, and there you go. That's very much it done. And we've got our grid set, and the drivers have done their extra practice, and we can now progress through to our race.
Yes, we certainly can indeed, Omi. And it is all about really mitigating those bad days, and it's just about being able to, even if it's not a lot of points, being able to score at least even 1 point come the end of the season. That 1 point could be the difference winning the championship and you championship. It is a game of numbers, fine margins, and I don't believe we're going to get the grid up. We're going to have to tell you just before the race does start. But it is going to be a race where potentially we could see some rain on the cards. That's the only reason I really would believe these drivers would go out on, is if there is rain on the horizons or at the start of the race. We've got a dry start, but there are some clouds quickly to run you through your field. It's Hietala, Bohm, Stevens, Vasso, the Rero, Prescom, Flat, Gabadi, Alves, and Santana rounding out the top 10. Patton, Fanselter, Kokeni, Stachulek, Vidler, Sabrino, Tulki, Vermond, Tomasetto, and Ralston, of course, not get a lap, rounding out the field. The drivers should be getting underway, or rather for a trip around this over 7 kilometre long circuit, and it is one of the most historic circuits on the F1 calendar. Had a lot of changes since, of course, it made its way on the calendar all the way back in the 50s. This is we still all know and love, a true driver's circuit, one that every driver loves to race around, and it is going to be a track where we're going to see plenty of battles tonight. Expecting a medium hard or hard medium strategy for the drivers to be taking on tonight if it does remain dry. If it doesn't, we could see some drivers either start on the hards, try extend those medium way to the rain. Interesting to see how Hietala and Bohm gets off the line here, and for Liam Stevens as well, does he go aggressive into that first corner? behind and try get that slipstream all the way down the hill. And Radion hit the rise up the crest and up in it. The com gets the move done. All a game of strategy and battery IQ as well. How much do you opening tour? How much do you save throughout the remainder of this race? Preparing their setups, preparing their strategy underway ever so for Seechuk. How far can he make his way up through the field? But the 5 red lights are on. It's Hietala and Bohm on the front row of the grid. And we're underway here in Belgium. It's a good start once again from the Aston Martin man from pole position as he leads into that first corner. Stevens already on the offensive against Conrad Bohm as he looks to the inside through the first corner but gets a sluggish exit. And that means Stephen Vasso could potentially have an opportunity to attack as we head down the hill. All clean through that first corner. Not too many places to change through the source, but this is where we're going to see a lot of drivers now use their battery, try use the slipstream and get the run. Stephen Vasso looking for a move here onto Liam Stevens. He can't get it done and Stevens late on the brakes into the com. Isn't able to find an opportunity against Conrad Bohm, or does he? Around the outside through Malmedy. Nothing doing there, and that once again puts him into the pass of Stephen Vasso, and he just can't make the move. It's just behind Avga Badi with a big lunge to the inside on Casper Flack. Is he going to be able to pull that move off as we now head up into the Jackie X curve? Yes, he can. He's up into 8th place. Lorenz Patton has passed teammate Nelson Alves, and he's up into 10th. Vermond is round on the exit of Jackie X, and he is dropped all the way down throughout the field. Another disappointing lap one from the Mercedes man. But as you can see in the back of the field, it's 2x2, nearly 3 wide into Campus Corner. And it's certainly all kicking off as that's the second Mercedes round, and Santana drops even further down the field.
Monster launch off the line. Tony Hietala absolutely bolted as well at the front of the field, but now the battery is very much going to be duped out. We're on board right now with Nelson Alves, a driver who has done well around this circuit before when it comes to PCF2. He was the winner here in season 38, and we're just looking to see who is making the maneuvers. Conrad Bohm going slightly defensive up against Liam Stevens as they make their way through the final corner and then on towards the start finish straight. This is the teammates going wheel to wheel, and that's Fanzelter and Kokeni, and through goes Seechuk down towards turn number 1. The Williams are about to do battle as well as they try and hit the brakes, and it is going to get very, very close. Patton's ahead of Alves. That's a bit of contact side by side between Kokeni and Seechuk as they get ready to make the run up to Air Rouge and Radion, and the Ferrari is going to back out of it as we arrive to the top of the hill.
Arrive to the very top of the hill, and at the front of the field, Liam Stevens looking to attack Conrad Bohm, who in turn is going for a move onto Tony Hietala, and we could see Bohm lead the Grand Prix here in Spa, and he certainly does. Around the outside later on the brakes, Hietala doesn't put up too much of a fight. It's very early in the race, and the battery is going to be oh so crucial. Lorenz Patton has dropped down a few places. He was, of course, in 9th, has dropped behind 4 cars in the span of their con. Maybe some contact with teammate Alves has caused that moment. Yellow flag behind, and that's for Sergio Sabrino and Jensen Ralston, who have both come into strife, I believe, as they've dropped down throughout the field. And I think Sabrino might have some front wing damage onto that Red Bull as well, so some more drama for him. Everybody in a Red Bull sandwich at the moment, with of course Bohm leading the way. But let's see what tyres everybody is on at the moment. It's hard throughout the field. So does this say here, Omi, potentially that the rain is going to come a little bit later on?
Definitely could suggest a couple of things because we are here at the Ardennes, and they were getting the practice in earlier on when it came to the end of qualifying. Through Blanchimont corner we go. This is now getting really, really close. So Stevens looking to attack Tony Hietala down towards the outside line, but doesn't choose to make the maneuver as we make our way through the bus stop chicane now. And on the exit, it's Bohm, Hietala, Stevens, Vasso, and Lorero now on board. William Stevens, you could see, was gaining just a little bit. Hietala starting to lose speed, and then Stevens, though, electing not to go for the maneuver. There might be chances to make maneuvers at plenty of points, but you don't want to use the extra battery. You don't want to risk going wheel to wheel, lose time. Remember, there's no safety cars that is going to bring you back into play and close in gaps. So you've realistically got to stay with your rivals, as you're not really going to get a helping hand at all in the contest.
Oh, you're certainly not indeed, and that's big news as well for Nelson Alves and co just behind him, because he's already dropped to second away from Ave Gabadi, and he's just been overtaken by Florian Vanselter into Lecom, and there's also a little bit of a kerfuffle further back. That was between Casper Flack and Laurie Tilke. Flack's really dropped down the field as well. He, of course, started all the way up in the top 10. A big moment for Tilke, who got forced onto the curb. And that's allowed Victor Vidler to maybe navigate his way through around the outside. But no, just has to slot back in behind of the Alpine. Head down the hill into Pouon. But a lot of these drivers now will be all solely in battery management mode. I'll be getting ready to maybe make some attacks in a couple of laps' time. Victor Vidler has actually been able to get past Laurie Tilke as they run side by side now through the chicane. And it is going to be the Audi who comes out on top. Tilke also had a good start to this one, but then dropped down throughout the field and it's just been spun round. I think a little bit of desync there between himself and Alex Santana. But the Alpine has just been spun around on the exit of Stavilo. Unfortunately for him, that is going to be a big, big disappointment. And he's now at the back of the field. It's 2x2 at the front of the field.
Oh, it's getting really, really close now. So, Bohm ahead of Hietala. They had to get 2x2 just due to the amount of speed that they all had. And Vasso is trying to put the pressure on Liam Stevens, and that's what you're risking as we still go 2x2. Down towards turn 1. Tony Hietala looking to try and retake the lead of this race. What sort of traction does Vasso have? What sort of traction does Stevens have? They're all getting very, very close together, and now Stevens is going through on the run up to Rouge, getting very close together. And it's Bohm ahead of Stevens, ahead of Hietala. And this is going to be a very fascinating Kemmel straight now. With the battery, all meeting in the middle, different levels at this stage, and Stevens draws alongside. We're about to go 3 wide with Hietala risking it, very nearly 4 wide with Vasso joining the party as well. Bohm's got the inside line, he's going to have the race lead, and he's just going to be ahead of the Racing Bulls, and with the inside line, that's going to be Tony Hietala hanging on to 3rd position.
Brilliant battling from all these drivers, and no! Hietala and Vasso collide! Hietala off the road just keeps it out of the wall. But that's big drama there. Vasso got tagged slightly, I believe, by Loureiro just behind him. That sent him onto the grass and into the back of the Aston Martin. And your championship leader comes to strife and drops all the way down to the back of the field. Tony Hietala down to 19th place. I was just about to comment on how nicely they were all driving against one another. The racing respect they were all giving each other and the racing room. And then the contact happened as I believe Vasso just moved ever so slightly. Loureiro wasn't expecting it, and into the back of the Aston Martin went the sliding McLaren, and that's disastrous for your championship leader, as that now gives Liam Stevens a wonderful opportunity at scoring some big points to take that championship lead back into his hands, as here comes Loureiro to the inside of the Racing Bulls. The Alpine going to try and hold it around the outside, get the exit, and on the inside for the source, but isn't able to do anything there. Vidler comes into the pit lane already here on the end of lap 4, but big drama and big controversy for the championship as well.
Yeah, big consequence for the man trying to make it 2 in a row at this stage as well. You can see Conrad Bohm just backing out of it slightly on the route to Rouge. As he has a buffer, he took perfect advantage to try and harvest some energy. That's going to be Loureiro going through down towards Lecom at turn number 5, and he's able to make the move easily, not fought by Stevens. And yeah, Max, it was going quite well until we got to about this part of the circuit 1 lap ago. They were switching positions. They know that they don't need to go completely aggressive up against one another, or at least we thought that they knew, but it ended up in a bit of tears for a few drivers. And on lap number 5 out of 22, your top 5 reads: Conrad Bohm, Alejandro Loureiro, Liam Stevens, the reserve driver, continuing his brilliance, Tador Persican, and Ave Gobadi, currently sitting in 5th, putting 2 Racing Bulls in the top 5 positions so far.
Yeah, it's been a brilliant season as well from Gabadi, of course. Was on for a potential top 5 finish in China before the disconnect there. Now he has a great opportunity once more. Now heads up the hill through on along with these, of course, the top 6 now all in this train. Nelson Alves has capitalised on all that chaos to really reel himself back in. Stachulek has just moved himself up to 8th place, and he is now finding his way further up the order. Of course, started 14th, now up to 8th, scoring some as it would currently stand, so at least give himself an opportunity in the championship standings. But at the moment, if things stay as they are, Stevens will have a nice buffer in that championship lead as a reserve, of course. As we now head down the hill into the Rouge and Radion. He's got Alejandro Herrero just in front of him. These two swapped on that previous tour. Are they going to swap round once again, or is the Racing Bulls just going to sit behind? And it actually could be the Alpine going for an attack on the sister team, on the Red Bull of Conrad Bohm in front. No, just elect to sit behind. I'm expecting a lot of the action to die down at the front of the field, but at the rear of the field, we're surely going to have an angry Tony Hietala try and make his way straight back up through the field.
Yeah, this is going to be fun to watch in terms of for us. Definitely not for fun for him, because he was expecting to be going side by side a lot today. Just not in the way that he's about to. Let's just say, with the battery, that you're always going to find yourself with a situation where drivers are overtaking you at certain points with different battery levels at different parts of the circuit. Of course, all that matters is that you can get to the 22nd and final lap in the lead and over the line. And at the checkered flag, claim that victory. But it does appear like that's going to be a bit of a hard task now for the driver that we are on board with. Your reigning champion of Season 42, a championship contender in Season 41 as well. Had that championship go away from him. He's going to hope that we don't get a repeat here. We've got plenty of talented drivers in the field and in the mix. And he is definitely one of those drivers who performs well around the circuit. So this is a bit of a big opportunity that's going to be missed for him after that moment happened, as we cut to more side-by-side action. Alex Santana losing out a bit of a drag race off Elliot Tomasetto, and it's getting very close as well at the front of the field. Out of La Source we go, and it's Alejandro Herrera and Liam Stevens who were in battle, as now the top three all get very close to one another, climbing up to Rouge and Radion now. And Stevens gaining all the time. Herrera might need to look for an opportunity as well for the leader. We're about to go three wide. Racing Bulls versus Red Bull versus Alpine. And it's the Racing Bulls going through on the brakes. Liam Stevens takes the lead. Conrad Bohm is in second. And it's Alejandro Herrera backing out of it. And now it's Stevens ahead of Bohm, ahead of Herrera, your top three. But they're still going to fight it. Going on the grass is the McLaren. Three wide through there will surely not work. And it was always going to end in tears. Herrera has a half spin, but somehow they all keep it pointing in the right direction for the most part, and they are all still running, unlike what happened to Tony Hietala a few moments ago.
That is another incident that has occurred from another driver getting a poor exit out of Malmedy. Then, of course, the battery being used by the car behind, and then the concertina effect as one tries to defend or even just tries to attack with the sheer overspeed. It's now Ave Gabadi trying to go to the inside of the railroad through the chicane. Isn't able to get the move done. Will now focus on the exit out of the curve of Paul Freyer and up the hill into Blanchimont and the bus stop chicane. But that's given Liam Stevens a lovely buffer to the cars behind us, 7/10 of a second. It was a beautiful move, three wide, really used the opportunity well, a bit like Hakkinen and Schumacher a few, of course, back in the early 2000s. Now we're going to see, are we going to see Ave Gabadi make his way through on Alejandro Herrera, the Alpine driver, of course, caught in that incident with the two cars in front of him. Gabadi could be a beneficiary of the Alpine dropping throughout the field. But as we exit out of the source, once again here on lap 8 of 22, are we going to see the move be made? Potentially a little bit further back as well from Tamas Kokeni on the back of Nelson Alves. We could potentially see two cars pass two different drivers at the same time.
There is a lot going on in this race. Well, you can see the Alpine just defending further up the road as well. So Herrera's ahead of Gabadi, and also just in front of this fight that you're seeing, Alves is on the back of Gabadi, as I was mentioning. Kokeni's in 7th, Stauchilek in 8th position, Flack is in 9th, Alex Santana's dropped down our order, Lorenz Patton dropped down our order as well momentarily. The yellow flags were flying, but we're all good now, and it is back to green flags, so possibly a moment momentarily, but nothing that has had big consequence from early glances at this stage. Lap 8 out of 22.
Of course, nearing that halfway stage of this race already. Only 22 laps here this evening, just due to how long the circuit is. The shortest amount of laps we have on the calendar, but it is still an agonisingly long race. around here at Spa. The laps feel like they take an eternity, especially the closer you get to the end of the race. And that final lap feels like it drags on for at least 5 minutes due to the sheer amount of battling that can be had and the amount of pressure, especially up into this bus stop chicane. That's what everyone builds for on that final lap. A lunge into the bus stop as Van Selter goes for a lunge himself into the bus stop chicane on Casper Flack, but isn't able to pull off. Remain in 10th place for now. It's just behind them. It's Vermont versus Elliot Tomasetto, and it looks like Vermont might be able to get the exit, or is he? Tomasetto on that inside line, able to stay ahead for now, but the Mercedes driver looking very racy indeed.
Yep, plenty of drivers in the field now, just looking to try and go on the attack. Conrad Bohm at the front of the field. Easy pass to take P1. We'll go further back now. That's where we'll see Kokeni making the move. We'll go even further back. And we're going to see Dirk Vermond involved in scrapping once again. Van Zelter currently holds the final points paying position. Elio Tomasetto is along with Vermond, who are trying to get there. Tony Hietala is also in the middle of the pack. There you can see in the Aston Martin liveried machine. And he's trying to just recover things at this stage. And we were mentioning earlier on in qualifying, minimizing the bad days. Well, it all kind of starts in these type of races, really. Can you try and turn a result where you were looking to finish right at the back into some points here and there?
Certainly is the opportunity that Tony Hietala has in front of him to potentially do and minimise the amount of points lost to Liam Stevens in front, or maybe even get back to the front of this field, because of course the field is still very much bunched together. Everyone from Conrad Bohm down to 17th of Jensen Rowson are still within overtake mode of one another. They're still all within a second of the car ahead. And we now see through Blanchimont, that was Casper Flack, on, actually no, Van Selter on the inside of Casper Flack and getting the move done up into 9th place. A spectacular move from the Cadillac to make his way up even further into that top 10. Very much an opportunistic move to the inside. Makes his way up into 9th. He's now got Stachulek just in front of him, who stagnated slightly in that 8th place for now. Sabrino has retired from the race, so he's unfortunately our first retirement in the Red Bull. Picked up some damage from an instant earlier on, and unfortunately not to continue for the rest of this one. As here comes Liam Stevens onto Conrad Bohm once again, and I'm expecting these two to swap a lot now here, Omi. Course, we get into this midpoint of the race. It's not really about leading the race just yet. It's more about just saving that battery.
Yeah, there's lots of things that you're managing. It was a lot more hectic earlier on at the start, as you would expect. We had a lot more big names there. So, you know, you were constantly at risk of, okay, dropping down to second's fine, but you were constantly at risk of possibly going to 4th, possibly going to 5th. And that's the point where it gets to dangerous territory. This is going to be very close. Ooh. Florian Van Zelter with the inside line, and Elliot Tomasetto straight into the barrier, and they go straight on. And that is a disappointing moment for them, as they were pushing on, they were racing hard, and that is going to be Elliot Tomasetto giving the place back to Florian Van Zelter, immediately diving to the inside as well. That's battery management actually, in fact, all playing out there. But yeah, that was very much another moment to add in this race of contact.
Yes, and here comes the rain. The rain has started to fall here on lap 10 of 22. At the halfway point of this race here in Spa, we have the rain to spice things up. We did say, with everyone starting on the hards and with the practice they put in at the end of qualifying, will the rain arrive? And it certainly has now. Are we going to see anybody pull the trigger just yet? Maybe even a Hail Mary from the likes of Tony Hietala? No, everybody stays out for now. It's not heavy enough at the moment. Tomasetto comes into the pit lane, but I wouldn't be surprised if he had a little bit of damage as well for being put in the wall there with that incident with Florian Van Selter. So he might as well try something if he has to come into the pit lane anyway. But the rain starting to fall. How heavy will it fall? How long will it take for the intermediates to be that quicker tyre? Time will tell. And Elliot Tomasetto and Lorenz Patton both onto the intermediates as Kokeni makes his way to 5th. Even Truda Preskin looking for 2nd, wasn't able to get it done. And Vermont up into 9th place now inside that top 10.
Absolutely. So the positions continue to change at this stage as we see the battery having a big impact as we predicted with who's running where, who's running quick where, and add into that now the rain as well that you can see falling on the circuit. Few drivers, well, I mean, Elliot Tomasetto, Lorenz Patton, as you mentioned, Max. Tomasetto probably had to come in due to damage. Regardless, Patton also, you know, following in. And it is a long lap, so sometimes if you were to gamble, you may lose out in Sector 1 and Sector 2. Sector 3 is, of course, the long back straight, but it really does depend. It's the longest lap of the season, so if you're one lap off, then it can have big consequence. Season 42, we had a wet race here around Spa. The rain changed things up very much in the last few moments. It came down in the last few laps last season, and it had a big impact. Now, this is at about the halfway stage of the race here in Season 43.
Yep, certainly is indeed. And are we going to see it shaken up once more? And of course, it's a great point you gave there, Romy, that you could be a little bit off with your timing in Sector 1. By the time you get to Sector 2, in what would usually be the end of a lap around the likes of, say, Brazil or Austria or even Monaco, you're then finding that time all the way back by the time you're at the end of Sector 2, because that rain has come down so much heavier at a different part of the circuit and it's such a long lap that it really is a difficult circuit to nail these strategies when it comes to the wet weather, because at one part of the circuit it could be bone dry, the next part of the circuit could be soaking wet where you do need those inters that are sliding off the road. So it's just going to be interesting on how hard it does come down. At the moment it's very light. It is slowly picking up though as the seconds tick by and as the corners tick by. So I wouldn't be surprised if maybe by the end of lap 14 you see drivers elect to come into the pit lane, and that's when the rain really starts to become at its heaviest. But so far, a lot of these drivers dealing with these conditions nicely. Stevens leads the way from Bone Prescott, Loureiro in 4th, and Kokeni rounding out that top 5. The Alpine looks to be the raciest of that top 5 at the moment.
Alejandro Loureiro definitely trying to come alive in contention for victory, and was very much in the mix when it came to Abu Dhabi last season. Has been on the podium twice in his F2 career so far, an F2 career that has had 6 races prior to today. Today is the 7th, and he also was able to grab a pole position, has been in the top 5 3 times, has had a top 10 3 times, hasn't ever retired out of an F2 race, and you'll want to keep that up, but he's going to have to very much balance the risk versus reward if he wants to stay in this one, because it really appears like this contest so far that if you become a little bit too aggressive, you and your rival have a one-way ticket straight into the barrier.
Certainly does indeed, and we've seen it at least 3 times in the race already. Of course, we've seen it with Hietala and Stephen Vasso. We've seen it with Bohm, Presikant and Loureiro, and we've also seen it with Van Selter and Tomasetto, and it does not look like those intermediates have worked out at all for Patton or Tomasetto. It's not rained heavy enough, and they are now behind Victor Vidler as Conrad Bohm's made the move on to Liam Stevens, so he now inherits that race lead. At the moment, it seems like that rain is not strong enough for now, but Loureiro's had a poor exit out of Malmud. He's dropped a second to the cars in front. As you know, he's made his way through on Tudor Prescott, so he's now up into 3rd place. So lovely stuff there from the Alpine, really being able to take the risk when he needed to the most. But for Tudor Prescott, he's starting to struggle, and next on that list is going to be Tamas Kokeni to see if the Cadillac can make his way through. He's had a great race himself, starting down in, I believe it was 12th place, now up into that top 5.
Yep, absolutely, as they make their way through then towards the 3rd and final sector. It is great to have your company wherever you might be watching from in the world. The 163rd PCF2 race playing out in front of your very eyes at the moment. Lap 13 out of 22. And we are in the phase where the rain is coming down, and we're waiting to see when is it going to be time for pit stops to come in. For now, we're going to enjoy more side-by-side racing. Alejandro Loureiro battling with Tador Presikant. He's ahead of Tador Presikant as we make our way on towards the start finish straight. Into the pit lane comes Gobadi. Into the pit lane comes Alves. Vermond is in. Stauchilek is in. Hietala is in. You've also got fans out that came in as well, along with Vasso. So plenty of drivers now choosing this to be the point that they make their pit stop.
Certainly is, and we're going to see that big split in the strategy now. Drivers in for intermediate. Some drivers have stayed out because they've either missed the pit lane by the time the indicator was right there, or they just haven't decided to come in, and Liam Stevens has got the move done onto Conrad Bone. We've not had the indication that boost has been disabled. It does get disabled, that overtake mode, because of the rain. Those tricky conditions, having a bit more power out of the corners is certainly going to be a risk. The FIA do mitigate that, a bit like what they did with DRS when that was in full effect due to low grip. There is. Keep an eye on Abe Gabadi against Jensen Rowson. That is going to be the big indicator. And at the moment, not really found any time. It's 6.3. We're really going to have to see what it comes to at the end of the sector. 6.1. Now the gap, a slide out of the Bruxelles hairpin through the Jackie X curve. And he's finding an abundance of time here, Omi. I think Gabadi might have hit the nail on the head and predicted the perfect time to come into pit lane. But the question is, how far in front of some of the drivers ahead of him does he come out, and does he even cycle to the front of the standings?
This is going to be very, very fascinating. Right, Liam Stevens, Conrad Boehm, here are some of your top drivers at the moment. Will that remain the case, though, as we make our way down towards the bus stop chicane? And they're going to be coming straight in. They won't be turning left. It'll be straight right and going through the very tight... Well, Alejandro Lerrero continues on, so he does something completely different. But here we go then. We see the rest of them make their way in towards the pit lane, and we're about to get a comparison. Remember, Abe Gabadi is still pushing out there. He is still going to be gaining all of the time through the corners. Backing off with the battery just a little bit. But now through the final corner he goes, gets on the power, and is about to send it over the line. Lots of drivers still in the pit lane at this stage. He'll make his way down towards La Source at turn number 1. Will rotate his way through. Will get his foot flat to the floor. And it is going to be, as it stands, Gabadi finding himself coming out in 6th. That'll be a net 5th, or net 4th even, when Santana and Loureiro come in probably as Elliot Tomasetto retires from the contest.
So he's not got too much of an undercut on the cars in front. The only driver he's really jumped here was Chamash Kokeni. Dropped all the way down to 7th place. Just got back past on Vermont. But it does mean, at least for Abe Gabadi, it's another position gained. He has got a heat cycle. That's higher. Liam Stevens, how much is he gaining onto Alex Santana in front of him? This is now the prime opportunity to come into the pit lane. Of course, that rain has certainly come down enough that those inters are ever so slightly quicker. May not be by much, but it's enough. See yourself a little bit further up the order. Makes his way through Puon, and this could be a lot of these drivers' first real session with the rain, their first real opportunity to see how the rain feels in competitive practice, and we'll see what they are going to be able to deliver. And so far for Liam Stevens, looks like a second win of the season, but you can't rule out the likes of Conrad Rome, Judah Prezican or Abe Gabadi, as we're surely going to expect Alejandro into the pit lane at this very moment, and we do.
Yeah, so he comes in to the pit lane then, the Alpine man, and Alex Santana will be expecting him as well, and he does come into the pit lane, these two going round an extra lap in comparison to most drivers, even 2 compared to some others, like the driver you're on board with, Abe Gabadi, who pulled the trigger much more earlier on, and now is going to be very much getting all set and ready. Let's see where we're going to be seeing Loureiro come out. So some of your leaders have already gone through. Now we're going to see more drivers cycling through. So that's Stevens, that's Boehm. Loureiro currently rejoins in 3rd, but Prezican is going to be getting his foot flat to the floor and is going to have the tyres warmed up at this stage. Loureiro will have the battery, however, because he's just fresh come out of the pit lane a few moments ago, so he'll have that in his advantage, and it means that he's going to survive the threat. This is for the race lead though, Conrad Boehm versus Liam Stevens down towards Lecombe, and it is going to be Boehm ahead of Stevens at this stage.
Yeah, of course, overtake mode is still enabled, so they still have that 1 second to be a part of, and have to be within that 1 second to get that extra energy, and Abe Gabadi starting to tumble down the order. Potentially struggling with the conditions, maybe a wrong setup choice, but now down to 7th place, and he's not enjoying these. That's all. And for Alejandro Loureiro there, he didn't lose any time at all on me. He stayed exactly where he of course was when Stevens and Bone came into the pit lane, and even Prezican as well. So there was no real time found. He was right behind them and stayed right behind them. So it shows that the intermediates aren't really the quicker tyre at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, you look at these conditions from what we can see and think, yeah, absolutely they are. But we've noticed that even in the F125 part of this game, where it can be coming down, it can be hammering down, and still these slicks will work. It's exactly what we had last season for season 42 PCF2 around this circuit, where drivers are going long, even with the rain coming down, and we're getting a whole train at this stage. That is going to be Dirk Vermond trying to meet Abe Gabadi through the final corner, and it's going to be wide for Vermond as we make our way onto the straight, and Gabadi is going to be ahead. Are we going to see a launch further up the road? That's Tamas Kokeni just assessing things at this stage, having a look to try and get past the McLaren of Tador Prezican, and it's basically like we've gone back to lap 1. Everyone's together and they're all about to do more battery chicken at this stage, I guess is the new term that we're going to have to come up with.
Yeah, we certainly are seeing drivers do a bit more battery chicken, and the low grip has finally been introduced. That means there is no more overtake, no more boost. And that means it's going to be a lot more challenging for these drivers to get through. And there's Liam Stevens around the outside on Conrad Bone. These two still run side by side through Malmedy. Lovely racing room to be given there from the Red Bull drivers. The V-Carb will squeeze all the way across into the Bruxelles hairpin to try and narrow that line for Conrad Bone. And Stevens does finally break clear and get ahead of the Red Bull behind him. And who's better in these low grip conditions? Of course, these cars are a little bit less on the aerodynamics. They haven't got as much aero on them as the F125 cars did, so they won't be as responsive in the rain, and a bit more easier as well. To loop that rear end round, they're going to be very much like you're driving some of those older cars, like your 2008 spec cars, where you saw drivers under braking, soaring at the wheel. So for Conrad Bone, this is going to now be a challenge to stay with Liam Stevens, potentially re-overtake him once again.
So interesting remaining part of this race incoming. We're about to progress our way on to lap number 18 as well, as that's getting very close through Blanchimont, and that's Alves looking for an opportunity up against Tamas Kokeni. Now he's trying to do under braking, trying to go the long way round. Outside can turn into the inside line. Bit of rubbing between the pair of them as they drift their way round the final corner. Stevens, Bohm, Larrera, Prezican, currently your top 4. Kokeni is ahead of Alves. Alves tries to position the car once again, and he's going to be trying to stand on the power. Meanwhile, we'll go further back, and you're going to be seeing Tony Hietala. So Vermond has gone through. Stauchilek trying to follow by as well, and Hietala, the driver who was trying to make some progress earlier on, looking now to risk it. Side by side into Rouge, and he just has to back out of it as they go through the corner.
Yep, certainly just had to back out of it indeed, and he's now going to try and fight back down the Kemmel Straight and into the Com. The rain's certainly pouring now, and the track's starting to get wetter. These intermediates will slowly come more and more into place. That's a big moment for Vermond as he tries to find a way through onto Abe Gabadi in front. Gets bogged down temporarily, and that might allow Stachilek to fight his way through as we now head down into the Bruxelles hairpin. Around the outside looks the Ferrari, but just not enough room for the prancing horse to barge his way down the outside. Just have to sit behind once again. He's still got the hard charging Tony Hietala and also Stephen Basso just behind him. Now make our way into Paul. This could be a really tricky corner in these cars. The rear sliding out on you, the front end not biting, not wanting to turn in. Really just about chucking that rear end out to get any form of rotation. They through the middle part of the lap. Seeming like Hietala is now potentially the one struggling on this lap. Got Stephen Vasso all over the back of him.
Yeah, so Vasso looking to try and now basically push Hietala out of the points. PSGL point system does differ to the real thing, but for 10th place we award 1 point as well. So very much same in that regard. And he's trying to get rid of that point that Hietala is about to gain as we go back over to Nelson Alves, going to the inside line, trying to get the car slowed down under braking. Kokeni chooses to continue to fight that one. Victor Vidlis picked up a penalty, and that's close on the exit, and that is going to be Kokeni staying ahead of Alves. Further back we go. Dirk Vermond is looking at his mirrors. Abe Gabadi's trying to get to the inside line. Are we seeing a car appear to the right? No. Well, he's going to sit in behind his Gabadi, and he's now checking those mirrors because Stauchilek is trying to stand on the power. Meanwhile, Alves still trying to clear Kokeni, and these two beginning to lose time to our front-running drivers just due to how much they're battling.
They certainly are indeed. And we are going to see potentially Alves go for a move down the Camel Straight and into the com. Kokeni will hug that outside line, and here comes Nelson Alves, but he's just not close enough for a lunge into their com. What about a little bit further back though? This battle between Gabadi, Vermont, Stachilek and Hietala. Vasso's just been overtaken by Kasper Flak, and here comes Vermont finally making his way through as Gabadi will try the up and under low through Malmedy. He will hug that inside line. I wouldn't be surprised if we get to extreme wets here. That's how hard this rain is. But there is Pitzor Stachilek capitalising on Gabadi going deep, forcing Vermont wide. He's now made contact with the V-Carb. Has the Ferraris. He's trying to hold it around the outside now. Gabadi will hold and squeeze Vermont to the inside here. Tala also trying to get involved here through Puon. Vermont will hug it to the inside line. He's still found a gap big enough for that Mercedes to fight his way through. But it's going to be Gabadi on the inside line. Will be later on the brakes, but it does not matter. Vermont with a bit more confidence, a bit later on the brakes, and he's just able to find that grip on that outside line. Here Tala now under pressure from Kasper Flak, and he might even drop out the points here. Made the championship leader as we go around, of course, through the curve of Paul Freire. He's been forced wide by Kasper Flak. Off behind them was Florian Fanselter. Here comes Stephen Vasso as well. Of course, Vasso and Hietala had trouble earlier on in this race, and that's why they're both so far down throughout this field. Through Blanchemont we go, and it is going to be Hietala who just holds on against the McLaren as he now looks to the outside of the Haas of Kasper Flak. Lovely racing from all of these drivers. Hietala looking to the inside. Now we've got a lovely view here from Stephen Vasso, who's just been tagged himself by Florian Fanselter as we now head up into the source just in front. Gabadi forcing Stachilek all the way to the inside, goes deep. Stachilek gets the up and under, and he might now be able to find his way through and up into 8th place. He does just get in front of Ave Gabadi, who'll try and hold it into a Rouge on Rallion, but nothing doing there. And the Ferrari now up into 8th place. A chaotic lap of racing there, and it's still going to kick off down the Camel Straight with Gabadi trying to retaliate.
Yeah, he's going to try and immediately have a fight back. Well, it is practically a drift show out there as you try and get ahead of your rivals. You can see Ave Gabadi pushing Stachilek through these corners at this stage. It's only 3/10 in it for the lead, so we're very much about to get that fight in a few moments' time. But for now, it's all eyes to the mid-pack. It's all about who looks to the inside, who looks to the outside. There was a defensive shape being thrown in the background by Fanzelter, and he is being attacked by Vasso. And they're all just looking for a route on the, well, any line at this stage in these wet conditions, with everyone drifting everywhere. It just means that you've got to sit in behind, wait for a chance, and wait for the opportunity to go through. We've made lots of references to F3 today with their wet race that they had. They had a start. They had the race start in these wet conditions, and this is basically what they were getting, just constant side-by-side, wheel-to-wheel racing, and it's exactly what we're seeing at the end of our race as we get towards the penultimate lap.
Yes, we certainly are indeed, and I would say those extreme wets will be the quicker tyre, but we're just so far late in the race, there's no point making that switch onto the blue wall tyre. So we're just going to see drivers in a battle of survival at the moment, because look how heavy that rain has got, and there isn't really too many parts of the circuit without a big puddle on them. As here comes Kasper Flak now onto Ave Gabadi. He's really struggled in these conditions, has Gabadi. He has not enjoyed them one bit. Late onto the brakes, nearly into Stachilek, and Kasper Flak says, thank you very much. I won't get an easier move again in my life. That's how easy that one was to get. It's Vasso sideways in the background. He's now been overtaken by Alex Santana as we head onto the brakes into La Source. But Gabadi really struggling under braking, just locking up the fronts, locking up the rears, just not having any grip, not being able to stop that car as we start the penultimate tour here in Spa, in the Ardennes Forest. And Liam Stevens has a 7/10 gap at the front of this field. It's still not over for 3rd place just yet. Prezican all over the back of Alejandro Herrero. Is he going to throw a lunge? Looking for it, maybe just sizing up his opponent in the Alpine, as Tony Hietala is now attacking Ave Gabadi.
Yep, so that's very much going to be a fight that is going to be going on. Tony Hietala looking for the better line at this stage. A driver who's already been in the wars so far when it came to, well, this part of the circuit just before that. And then, of course, we had the Bruxelles crash, the 3 wide. Later on, after the fact, Hietala was already running nearer to the back when that happened. And for now, he's just trying to wrestle things. Good exit off the corner. Could present a chance into Puon. That's only if he wants it. But no, he's going to sit in behind through the next few couple of corners.
Yep, certainly. Did you see rear of the car, just skating about underneath him, just trying to wrestle any form of grip he can out of the Aston Martin, just to secure a singular point. And as it stands for Liam Stevens, he'll be licking he now has in front of him. Of course, have that championship lead and extend it by quite a long way. Make our way now through the Paul Freyer and up now into Blanchimont. And at the front of the field, Stevens versus Bohm still will rage on as we're about to start the final lap here in Spa. And Hietala, is he going to look to the outside or is he going to look to the inside? He looks to the inside on Dave Gabadi. He struggled here last lap, did the V-carb. Just been able to hold on this time as Van Selter was laid on the brakes trying to go around the outside of the Aston Martin. Just wasn't able to do so, and there's some contact with Alex Santana behind. But as we start the final tour here in Spa, in what has been a very, very special race for some, not so much a special race for others, we're going to see Bohm versus Stevens. Are we going to see the V-Car be our first double winner of the season? Are we going to see Conrad Bohm be our third different winner of the season and really show himself as a standout star of this division here in season 43? He's in the slipstream, he's using the battery, but he's just not going to be close enough. By the time we head onto the brakes, Kokeni a little bit further back, looking to the outside of Nelson Alves, just sliding the rear of the car out, isn't able to find a move at this stage just yet, and Conrad Bohm a little bit further up is getting closer still to the V-Carb. The two sister teams will go to war on this final lap to try and see who comes out on top. Of course, Stevens fighting for the championship already here in round 3. He's announced himself as one of the early championship contenders, and what a lead he could have if he can win here tonight. And for Conrad Bohm, he's going to be looking for a maiden F2 victory and will be looking, of course, to really show everybody that he means business this campaign and really put his name on the map. But a mistake through Campus Corner might have just gave Liam Stevens the opportunity he needs to hang on to this race victory. It's half a second coming out of Stabilo, the rear of the Red Bull, screaming for grip as he tries to put the foot down and put as much horsepower as he can onto those rear tyres. He'll try and use all the battery, use this slipstream through Blanchimont and maybe send a late lunge on the brakes up into that, of course, final bus stop chicane. Will it be enough? Can he take it away from Stevens? He's very late on the brakes, but he's just not late enough. And for Liam Stevens, it's going to be one of the drives of the season through changeable conditions. Capitalise on his championship rivals' errors, and he takes the race win here in Spa. He's our first double winner of the season, and Liam Stevens wins the Belgium Grand Prix in a emphatic fashion, with Conrad Bohm with a brilliant podium in second place. Alejandro Herrero will finish in third after a horrid start to this season. But for Liam Stevens, it is a race victory and one he will cherish here at Spa. When his championship rivals faltered, he picked up the pieces, and he certainly has cemented himself as an early favourite to take this season 43 crown.
Absolutely, Liam Stevens, a 6th victory in PCF2 and 2nd place. 2 seasons ago around this circuit. Well, he's taken it all the way to the top step. Sat out season 42 did Stevens, so at his next return to Spa in the 2nd tier, he was always going to be hungry, and he has put it on the top step of the podium. And the reserve driver continues, well, to run at an elite level, and there is a reason why. He's at the top of the reserve list, meaning that if there's any seat that opens, he's going to be the one that gets given it.
Yes, he certainly will indeed. So for Stevens, certainly for weeks to come. Never know, these performances may even give him a full-time. Have to wait and see, depending what happens to other drivers as progresses. But your finishing order is as follows. It's Liam Stevens who takes the top spot for the 2nd time this season, our first double winner of the season, and our first driver not to take pole this season, but in race. Conrad Bohm finishes in 2nd, started 2nd with 2nd. I think he'll be very, very happy with that performance. A great race from him. Alejandro Herrero in 3rd, Tudor Prescott in 4th, Nelson Alves in 5th. Kokeni in 6th. Vermond with another great drive. I think that's our 2nd driver in 2 weeks to come from 18th to 7th. Where it was Zach Seiler last week. Seechuk in 8th, some good points for him. Flack and Gabadi in 9th and 10th, and appointment for Tony Hietala. Of course, took pole, involved in an incident with Stephen Vasso, and 20 points. That's bad for his championship. Van Selter, Santana, Vasso, Sulky, Rosen, Patton, Fiddler, and Tomasetto and Sabrino round out finishing order. And Tomasetto and Elia both did retire. But, Omi, that was a spectacular race. We said it was going to be chaos, and it certainly was chaos. It was a dramatic Belgium Grand Prix. But Liam Stevens, once again, showing that no matter how much chaos there is in a race or how much drama he needs to go through, he can still pick up the pieces. A big result.
He can. And it's been absolutely incredible to watch what Stevens has been able to do. We've seen we've seen a lot of great PCF2 races. You know, the ending of that one was definitely, I mean, a certain phase of that one is absolutely going to be one that we'll look back at because, yeah, there was quite a lot of chaos and there was quite a lot going on. But Liam Stevens, he's just doing his thing. He is very much just doing his thing. And it is great to see that he's come into this season very much very much at a rapid rate. And he's very much going to go on this way, if I'm honest. It's going to be hard to stop him. There's going to be drivers like Tony Hietala who are going to try and do their best. But one thing you don't want to give a driver like Liam Stevens is some momentum. Now, there is a week break. And then, of course, we're back for Madrid all the way till the end of the season for a sprint. So we'll see what we're going to get there.
Yeah, we certainly will. But taking a win, a third, and then a win in the opening 3 rounds of the season, then heading into a break week. That's exactly how you want to head into a break week. But it does mean that momentum could stop and then come into Madrid. He could have a poor race, and then that snowballs. Snowball effect comes into play. Down throughout of the championship if that does happen. But for Tony Hietala as well, disappointment for him. Being now tied on points with Seechuk for that second place standings, and it was all thanks to that incident at Lorero and Vasso. He was an innocent bystander, and an incident that wasn't he at all was given them quite a big buffer now of now going to 18 heading into Madrid. So no matter what happens in Madrid, Stevens will come out of that race as champion. So for Hietala, the reigning champ, certainly after that race would really enjoy the great week.
Yep, absolutely. And it's going to be quite a lot of fun to see how things are going to play out. It does appear like, Max, we may have Conrad Bohm waiting for us. No one else has come in yet. But the driver who was trying to chase down the victory on the last lap got close in the middle sector, couldn't quite get there in the end. But should we have a word, Max? I'm going to let you speak with a driver who got close to the win, didn't quite get there though.
Yes, let's have a word with Conrad Bohm. Of course, as I mentioned, has been a real standout star this. Some of these. Now, hello, Conrad. Can you hear us?
Yes, of course. Hello.
Well, first of all, congratulations on that podium. Talk us through things. How did you find quali? How did you find the race?
I think in the last hour I found something quali that was really good. The lap there wasn't perfect, I think, but still pretty happy with the positions. There is no much difference if you start P2 or P1 on this track especially. And in the race, I think I was doing good in terms of like managing. I was always P1 or P2, so that's the great thing. And then, of course, the rain came. Unfortunately, when there was still a boost, how was that called? Boost mode on by the directors, I got overtaken by Liam, and then it was so much more difficult to overtake him. A bit mixed feelings because I thought I might get him in that last lap on the back straight because I was really close and I I've unfortunately touched the grass and lost a bit of time, but still happy with the result. First podium of the season after that pretty bad start of the season. Let's hope just to continue that. Yeah.
Hopefully can continue by momentum, even though it's not been the greatest start. Of course, it's F last time out in China. You have still shown some pace, of course, quali pace as well in China. Just, of course, heading into Spa, of course, the battery was a big talk well for me in quali and the race. Just how difficult is it to manage the battery around a circuit like this?
In races, it is much more difficult because when you are not in the behind someone, you have that. You don't have the boost mode and the and it's so much harder. I mean, when you don't have it, you can hit the recharge limits so much more easily, and then you can be overtaken by a lot of guys. But in quali, I think we cooked, especially guy named Will Witchell cooked a lot. We are so quick, and yeah, I hope he can hear that, and he's happy now.
It certainly did seem that you found something quali there that gave you that front row of the. Of course, as well, that was our first wet running of the season. You've probably done some wet practice.
No,
Oh, you've not done any wet practice.
No, no, on this game. I think I've done like. I don't think I have done maybe 10 laps on career mode. I think.
How
wet.
difficult are these cars in the rain then, Conrad? As a
No,
first time experience, how was it?
No, it's similar to the previous two games. It's literally the same, just less downforce. The handling is very, very similar.
Pretty much just like a normal race for you then in that rain, that transition. But of course, even then, just to have your first proper experience and still be on the pace of the front runners, that downforce. Was it difficult to adapt to that less downforce rain, or very kind of?
Not really, because every lap it was like on the first interruns it was still pretty dry, so I don't think there was much of a difficulty. It's good that I did like 2 laps, I think, in the quali when there was a bit of rain. That definitely helps a bit. Yeah.
The circuit in the rain. Of course, one last one from me. We head off. Of course, we head to a break week next week, but after that, we head to our first ever proper event at Madrid. Have you done many laps in Madrid? Are you confident in that circuit? And will you be racing in?
No, I don't even remember the track fully. It's a big question mark for now. For me.
Well, hopefully, Conrad, do at least have a good performance at, of course, Madrid. You never know, maybe get to the top step of the podium. Have to wait and see. But yeah, hopefully we back in 2 weeks' time and better.
Thank you. See you guys. Good night, everyone.
Night. But that is the interview, ladies and gentlemen. Only Conrad here tonight. But, of course, Omi, we've got that break week now. It means that some drivers that have had that poor turn in momentum, haven't had the greatest start of the season, can regroup, revitalised, and it gives them that extra week to practice a new circuit as well. And by what it sounds like for Conrad, I think he might need that extra week.
Yeah, absolutely. You get this one break week, and then it's straight away a sprint till the end of the season as well. Great for drivers. Well, it works either way. It's a great chance for drivers who can go into that break with confidence and be happy. it's very much good for them. It's also a good reset opportunity for drivers who have not had the start to the campaign that they were looking for. So we're going to have this 1 week break, and then we'll be back for Madrid to see what an F2 race is like around there as well for the first time. It's going to be quite a lot of fun, so I'm going to be looking forward to that. Of course, we're not completely gone. On Monday, we're going to have the PlayStation tiers, so you'll be able to see a little bit more action when it comes to racing around this circuit. But yes, 1 week of not seeing our faces, which I'm sure everyone is quite sad about.
Everyone's going to be so disappointed.
Yeah.
Me in the comms box. But before we head off, let's take you through the calendar. Of course, as we mentioned, it is Madrid after the break week, and then as Omi mentioned, it's a sprint straight through for the rest of the season. We head to Spielberg, we head to Red Bull Ring, then we head to Imola for round 6, Vegas for round 7, Mexico, Brazil, Bahrain, and Texas is going to be a very interesting season. Hopefully, be able to see a championship battle all the way till the very end. But Omi, just before we head off, is there any final thoughts from you?
Well, enjoy the break week. Enjoy filling your Thursday evening. But make sure you're back with us when it comes to Madrid, because there is some campaign to have. And we've got some champion to crown in plenty of weeks' time. But they're all going to go by very quickly, like a PSGL season normally does.
Certainly will indeed. So make sure you join us in 2 weeks' time. You get a week off from all the action, especially after tonight's race. I think we may need it after the chaos and carnage we just had. We'll see you for a trip to Madrid. It's maiden, of course, debut in an official season. We had the pre-season races. This is the real thing. We shall see you 2 Thursdays' time at 8 PM UK time, 9 PM European time. There. Will Stevens be able to carry on his fine form? Could we get someone new to the very top? Could Hitala come back revitalised? Could we see someone who's had a very poor start to the season maybe kick their campaign finally off the blocks? I'll see what happens. But tune in 2 weeks' time. Stay safe. Stay well. Thank you all very much for watching, and